something? Cool.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're here for another edition of RocGrowth Candids. Appreciate you all being here on a Tuesday afternoon. And we have our guest today, Norm Silverstein from WXXI. And we'll really quickly, I'll go over the format. My name is Chris Cooley. For anybody who's been here before, you've seen my face. For anybody who hasn't been here before, I am a local Rochester entrepreneur. I am a proud supporter of this RocGrowth community. And I am also the MC of a lot of these events. So I want to just frame out the format here a little bit in the guidelines. You'll see that we have a bunch of Hollywood squares here today, and appreciate all of you staying on mute throughout the duration. There's going to be an interview. My friend and collaborator and face of RocGrowth, Richard Glazer, is going to be doing an interview with Norm. We're going to kick that off for about the first 30 minutes. There's going to be an interview. If you have questions, please type them into the chat. I will be monitoring that. And just so you all know, we will synthesize those questions. So we may not ask your question directly, but we will cover the topic of your question in time. And so the other portion of this event that is slightly different than what we've done in the past in the grand theme of public access is we are going to, at about the 40-minute mark, something like that, we're going to take a 3-minute pause, and we've got a couple of people who are going to give a public service announcement. So make sure you're around for that. And without further ado, I am going to let Richard take the stage and start the interview. Or say a few things about RocGrowth first, probably.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all healthy and your families are fine as well. On XXI this morning, I woke up to hear the unfortunate news that Monroe County, unlike last month where we had the lowest rate of COVID, is now the highest. And it underscores how this virus knows no boundaries. And I hope for the next call, we are again among the lowest counties. This is our 9th Zoom. The format has been working adequately. Can't wait till the day, hopefully within a short period of time, that we could all meet again. But meanwhile, we continue to pursue our mission, which is to empower the new Rochester, the rising generation of leaders. We also like to feature and turn a spotlight on our community's great innovators and entrepreneurs. And we're fortunate to have one today who is our featured guest, Norm Silverstein. Third, we also like to instigate creative collisions. I encourage you to continue doing it digitally. I know this week I've canceled a bunch of in-persons, and I'm doing my meetings via Zoom or Google Meets. And finally, everything we do is informed by promoting greater equality of race, class, gender, and age. So we are interviewing someone who I would describe, you wear many hats, and among them you are a journalist. So in the spirit of full disclosure, I want to inform everyone that I am among the biggest groupies of WXXI. And I am a contributor because I gained so much, it enhances my life and enriches it. From the FM, the classical station, to AM, the TV station, and more recently, city newspaper, and let's not forget the Little Theater. So Norm, I would posit that you are one of the more underrecognized positive contributors to the community. And who are you? Tell us. Because I'm telling you, there's the TV, the radio, sometimes you're up there for an appeal, and occasionally you interview guests with your show, Norm and Company. Who are you?
Well, it's an interesting question. I did start out as a journalist. I was a journalist for a decade, and mostly in the Washington area and a covered a lot of interesting stories, including some overseas assignments. I only bring that up because everybody just assumes I'm a fundraiser, which I guess I've gotten pretty good at, but that's because I decided that's where I could probably do the most for the station and the community to make sure that we had a strong public media operation and weren't so like some stations like begging from day to day to stay on the air. And I think we've done pretty well with that.
Yeah, I also know, I mean, you're from, when we met around the same time, you moved up here from Maryland and you were associated with a public affiliate, an NPR, PBS affiliate down there, Owings Mill, right? And
Yeah, that was some Maryland Public Television and a big national producer for PBS. It was the originator of the show Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser, which was considered the first real analysis of the market show and was on for over 30 years. So what I learned there, I did bring with me. But if you look back at my history, I was a journalist, and then I was I was a press secretary to a governor of Maryland for 5 years, and then I was at Maryland Public TV, and I got recruited to Rochester, which I never expected that I was actually going to end up in Rochester for 25 years because I just celebrated my 25th anniversary. When I got called, I knew the recruiting firm that the station had hired, so I thought no harm in going into Washington for a meeting. And then, like in 5 minutes, I knew that they're gonna ask me to come up to Rochester to interview. And my wife said, "Go ahead, you can use the practice," never ever assuming that we were going to move. But seems to have worked out, even though I did say, well, we'll probably be there 5 or 6 years, right? But just like everybody else who comes to Rochester, you can't get rid of us once we, and it's mostly because of the people. We've just made a lot of friends and just really love the community. And it's been great for us and great for our kids.
yeah, doesn't Rochester have this sneaky way of growing on you?
Yeah, absolutely. And even beyond Wegmans. Hey, I'm thrilled. My office is across the street from Frontier Field, and we're going to have the Washington Nationals now. So, I'm looking forward to baseball actually coming back in the spring.
Indeed. So WXXI is a 501c3, a nonprofit, the structure, correct?
Correct.
It has linkages with these other organizations that I would call NPR, PBS. You have a large budget. You're a larger operation than just pushing out content from those other sources. Can you describe, we have a diverse group here in age and ethnic background, residents, where they live, cities, suburban. Some people perhaps aren't that familiar with WXI. How would you describe WXXI?
Well, sometimes it's a lot more than people think it is. I mean, we're actually chartered by the Board of Regents. I mean, we're an educational institution for the state of New York, and we do a lot of kids programming. As a matter of fact, I think as much or more than almost any public station in the country. And if you have small children now, or maybe even up to middle schoolers or some high schoolers, you'll notice that we've put curriculum-based programming on so that there's something there for kids and for parents during the pandemic, particularly when so many people are stuck at home. We also recognize that not everybody has high-speed internet or even a laptop to work on. So a lot of what we're doing, we're also putting on our broadcast channels and making it available free and over the air, so that you don't have to go out and spend $1,000 or $2,000 to take advantage of it. And for young people say you can get television free because everybody's so used to growing up with cable and satellite, and of course we're there, but we're also over the air, and we've gone in recent years from 1 TV channel and 2 radio stations to 4 digital TV channels, a cable channel, and 6 radio stations from here to Ithaca. And also, as you noted, we actually purchased the Little Theater 8 years ago, and we took over City News just over a year ago. And I will share something. We didn't do it to make money. We knew what we were getting into, and this was before the pandemic. And I don't know that we would have made any kind of different decisions. You know, we've raised money and we've restored the Little to what it looked like back in 1929 when it was first opened, and we expect we will bring the Little back as soon as we're able to, and it'll be better than ever. And we've gone from City being a weekly paper that, like every weekly in the country, lost most of its advertising overnight, to now a monthly magazine, and we're slowly building back the support for it. And you know, we think that it's making a difference. So we're really pleased with where we are right now. But it's no secret that most of our people are working harder than they've ever worked in their lives. Like you were talking about the vaccines, we're doing our 5th virtual town hall Thursday evening, 8 o'clock. We'll have experts from Rochester General and from URMC, and we're going to be talking about the vaccines. The difference is these are local experts, and we'll have people asking questions that people here in the Rochester area want answered. So we're busy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think our awareness has been heightened about the segregation in our community, different access people have to certain resources, and I want to touch upon issues around what you view your mission as. Obviously, the Little Theater appeals to a certain crowd, yet you are addressing educational issues. How do you view your mission? What is the philosophy or the sense of purpose that drives the organization?
You know, it's all about education. People sometimes think that we are what they use of WXXI's services. I have board members who they love the classical station. They don't think that much about the news stations. I have people with young children who think you're the kids channel. So it really depends on how you use things. And now, of course, we have the Little and City. But it is a mission-driven organization. And, you know, I could give you all the fancy, the educational center for the community kind of stuff. We believe in the community, and we put the community first. And when we make decisions, even when we're looking at doing a documentary, one of the things I always want to see is, can this documentary be distributed to other public TV stations across the country? And if the answer is yes, I can almost always raise the money, and people pick our shows up, and it's pretty cool. We did a documentary about the renovation of the Eastman Theater, and I remember it so vividly. I was brought in to see Joel Seligman, and Joel looks at me and says, "What do people outside of Rochester care about a building in Rochester?" And I said, "Joel, people like good stories." And sure enough, that documentary was picked up by 120 stations across the country, including New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. And, you know, those are the kinds of things we love to do. You and I have talked about something we did just a few weeks ago, the John Lewis mural here on State Street. I mean, we drove down on a Saturday night, right when it was finished, and we couldn't, you know, my wife Jane and I, we just couldn't believe it, you know, and we made sure that we did a slideshow, there was a long radio piece, and then there was a kind of a video production done by Max Schulte, who was a great videographer who we picked up from the Democrat and Chronicle. And we shared it with the PBS NewsHour, and they ran 2.5 minutes of it nationally on the NewsHour last week, and they've put it on a new arts channel that they're developing. So when we do something locally, and it's got that potential to really promote Rochester nationally, those are the things I get most excited about.
Yeah, again, interesting how I think you're understated many times, not necessarily you, perhaps you and the organization, in that you used the Little Theater just recently to record 4 artists in the community. And that included Herb Smith, Danielle Ponder, Moses Rockwell, and the band Maybird. And when you look at the ethnic makeup makeup and the diversity, it's quite striking given Rochester and how many people perceive our community. And I heard Danielle Ponder, when she was interviewed between a couple of songs, state that a common thread between her music and her work as a public defender is it's telling a story.
Yeah.
So maybe you opened Joel Seligman's eyes and informed the former dean of a law school that there's more to just reading books. But
Well,
I really commend you. That was a great project at the Little. And
yeah, we thought it was pretty cool. We've been doing more streaming than people realize. I mean, you can go to the Little Theater app or on our website, and there are movies that you can buy and view at home. And then we've done more than just the 4 concerts you mentioned. We've done a lot of getting local bands together and letting them play, and then streaming or broadcasting or doing both, so that they're still out there in the community. So I'm glad you noticed that. I sometimes feel that we don't really publicize it well enough what we do, particularly in things like culture and education. But right now, if there was ever a time when public media was needed, we believe it's right now, and we want to live up to the expectations.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting how you frame it as the primary mission is education. I guess journalism, reporting, political reporting is education as well. Just briefly, I Googled, people could do that as well. The origin story of the network is quite interesting. You know, how XXI emerged, I think, in the late 50s, early 60s. Do you want to touch upon what you know about that?
Well, I know there was a huge battle with the people who were trying to get Channel 13, and the original founding mothers and fathers of WXXI were trying to get 13 to launch this new thing called public television, and this battle delayed it 5 years, and the folks on the XXI side finally took a UHF channel, which was considered inferior at the time, Channel 21, but they managed to make it work. Yeah, it wasn't easy to put the station on the air, and we're still looking for more stations, particularly radio. Although we recognize that people are not listening to radios the way they used to, and that we have to think all the time about what this is. We have to think about the digital future, and that's for some of us it's a little hard to get away from the traditional way you absorb media. But things are changing, and the pandemic is really accelerating that change. But no one handed the keys to WXXI to the folks who put it on the air. And when I say education, Harold Hacker, who was the head of the libraries for many years, he's actually considered the founding father of XXI. So we had a librarian who was helping to put the TV station on the air, and felt it was like a library of the air.
You're quite ambidextrous. I mean, you have a TV station, radio station, you have TV, radio, theater, a newspaper, and they're all very different types of operations. People develop a skill set around each one individually.
Well, we looked at it as actually that things kind of fed on each other. Not that they were different, but they were maybe more alike. For one thing, with City News, we're big believers in local journalism. We believe that having local journalism contributes to the health of a community. And when you look around the country at places where newspapers have folded and there's hardly anything left covering what's going on, that's where you find Flint, Michigan, with all the problems they had with their water system. If they didn't have any local journalists there, who knows how much of this would have ever come out. And we can cite so many examples like that around the country. So we believe it's really important that people can trust us, and that we're local, and that we're independent, and that we put the community first.
And that can ruffle feathers, right? I mean, that's a challenge when you're very dependent upon the community for financial support, correct?
Yeah, it has happened. I always tell our people, just remember, if you do a story and it ticks off somebody, say a car dealership, if you're Channel 10, they might withhold advertising for a couple of weeks. But, if it's WXXI, sometimes I feel like we get blacklisted. Well, I don't really need to make that underwriting contribution. But we don't let that stop us. If we didn't keep going, then there really wouldn't be a need for us. But it is out there.
Could you tell a story or two? Where do you get a call where someone just reams you, and or do people know better?
You're probably referring to the fact that the mayor is very upset with our talk show host. She didn't like the way she was treated on one of his shows, and she has refused to come back on. And, we're really disappointed. And I've gone to talk to her personally about why I think, this doesn't help anyone. So things can happen, but it doesn't shut the station down. What we felt was if she's not on as much, or people from City Hall aren't on as much, then they're not getting to tell their story. So so this isn't hurting us, it's really hurting them. So things like that do happen. But no, I mean, there were some funny things. When I first came to Rochester, I was visited by Robert King, who's a former conservative county executive. And he said to me that he cut the county's grant to WXXI every year by the amount of my predecessor's raise. Like whatever Bill Pierce got as a raise, he would cut that from the county support. So I thought that was an interesting introduction. It's when I was pretty new here.
Oh boy. Well, you did work in Maryland. And you said you worked for the governor, and his predecessor was Spiro Agnew, right?
Two back.
So
I did have the same office.
And by the way, I just heard on the other night while preparing dinner a replay of Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and she was interviewing Rachel Maddow a year ago about the book she published, all the recent revelations about Spiro Agnew. My life, and I'm seeing some of the chat come through, I think all these folks who are contributing to the chat are just expressing some gratitude for the service you provide. And
well, thank you. I appreciate that. We've got a great team here, and I don't like to take all the credit because the people who work at XXI and the Little Theater and City are really special, and they're working hard. Dave Andriotta is a terrific writer and columnist, and I think he's injected new life into City News, and we couldn't have done it without him. And it's tough at the Little Theater, but the key people are still there. And thanks to the PPP loans, things like that, we haven't had to do any significant cutting of positions, and we've tried to maintain all the people to the best that we could. The biggest problem, of course, when your theater is closed for almost a year, is that there's not really that much to do. But it'll come back.
So let's address the business side for a moment. We have a bunch of entrepreneurs, business leaders in the community. How do you operate? I've heard you express, I think some people might be surprised at the size of the budget. And then how do you generate the revenues, and how have you staffed up? How is it structured right now?
Well, if you looked at just XXI, just the TV and radio, the budget would be about $12.5 million. Add another $1.5 million for the Little Theater, and about $2 million for City. So it's around $15 million now. And for the most part, we raise that money every year. I know I've talked to some college presidents who, they said, how much do you raise every year on an annual basis? Probably about $15 million. And the breakdown is, believe it or not, still the biggest funding source is membership. People just like you who become members of XXI, and that's about $4 million. But the rest of it comes from things, underwriting support, government funding, which always surprises me. People think we're funded entirely by the government, is about 25%, and it's not insignificant. But it's not what people think it is.
Which government? Local?
Actually, it's state and federal, and it's coincidentally about the same amount for each, about $1.5 million from the state and around the same amount from the feds on an annual basis, which then requires me to spend a great deal of time in normal years in Albany and Washington, being a lobbyist, which is another interesting part of my job.
And when
But
you're lobbying in DC, would that be with our representative like Morelli's office? Or?
yeah, we see Joe Morelli, Tom Reed. I've gone to Chuck Schumer's office enough that when I walk in, he gets up and he points at me and says, Rochester. So we've gotten to know people pretty well.
He even has our accent when he says it.
Yes, he does. He does. Well, he has a few relatives in Rochester. Not everybody knows that.
Well, yeah.
Consider him an honorary Rochesterian.
Yeah, I think he has family that he has a connection to Utica as well. So that's right. Your footprint, because of the other radio station affiliates, is it's vast. It's much larger than the 9 counties that are often connected to economic development, right? I think.
Yeah, we serve up on a pretty regular basis, at least 11 counties.
Yeah.
Almost the whole Finger Lakes region, and that's why we did just did a 1-hour documentary, Journeys Through the Finger Lakes, and that show, by the way, has been picked up by almost every public station in New York State, and we're offering it up for national distribution. And it's an uplifting show. Sometimes you got to do something, particularly at a time like this, that people can feel good. And what I had people say to me is that, I love the show. It made me remember all the great things, that we have here in the Finger Lakes region, and that I know that we'll be enjoying again. And, that moves me when I hear things like that from our viewers.
Yeah, the chambers of commerce and travel bureaus, tourist bureaus, should be helping you out and providing some funding as a result. That's a great. By the way, it was a wonderful production. But I don't want to be remiss. Chris, would you do me a favor? Can we put a link for donations? I'm serious. Put it in the chat. Let's see what RocGrowth can do, everyone. Not take WXXI for granted. So over the next 22 or 32 minutes or whatever it is, we have a match. Anyone prepared to give a match?
We're always happy to accept a donation or a matching gift. And thank you, Richard. You've been very generous, and we appreciate that. And you get your name on the air a lot, too.
Well,
I hope it helps your business.
Not for the wrong reasons. You're a news.
No, but you and I have talked about a lot of things that I sometimes wonder why people like at the chamber or at Visit Rochester don't pay more attention to the things we're doing that go out nationally. For example, people are surprised when I say Second Opinion, the National Health Series on PBS, is a WXXI production, produced right here on State Street. And we're in our 17th year with the University of Rochester Medical Center as a partner on this. We brought them in, and we just added a new host, Joan London, who's a former co-anchor of Good Morning America. So, when people see on the air, and there's a lot, of course, because it's here, we do have a lot of local doctors in addition to the ones we bring in from around the country. And how can that not help raise the visibility of the University of Rochester and the city of Rochester? And especially since we brag about our health system so much, this is something that puts it in everybody's home across the country. And if you were wondering, it's 250 stations who carry it every season.
Yep. I was thinking when you were talking about the Rukeyser Wall Street, I used to watch that show.
I used to negotiate his salary.
He was a character, and he was smart, and he was great resource. So I see in the chat someone's referencing Jack Garner. Is there a way to designate giving to a fund? Is there a fund for Jack Garner?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to name one of the theaters in Jack's honor. Jack was like the greatest friend the little theater had. And Kathy Reed from my staff I think she put it on chat where you can send a donation because we're raising money now for that theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a blow to the community, losing Jack.
So let's back. This is I'm curious. I'm sure you have data regarding the demographics and of the people that use the various services. So if we were to step back and someone respond, let's be blunt. Someone might say this is just a Chardonnay swilling suburbanite resource to the community. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, public broadcasting has, I think, an undeserved kind of reputation as being elitist. But if you said to me, "Who's watching your station on Thursday afternoon?" I'd say, "Well, we were actually surprised because we do get a lot of. I mean, we actually buy a lot of data on who's watching and who's listening." And one of our people came in and said, "We have a large group of African American grandmothers who watch the station in the middle of the afternoon." And we looked at each other and said, "Of course, kids programming. They really appreciate it." And in that same group, we also have a lot of people who are from the outer areas, the exurbs that we serve, rural areas. Same thing, where adults are watching with their kids and their grandkids, and they do it, and because there's always an educational message in our shows. And it's non-violence, it's educational. So we're proud of that. And we were looking at, do we have enough shows that appeal to different parts of our community? And, the answer is no. We're going to pick it up. Of course, we do things that people don't always know that we do. Like we work with Black Filmmakers Organization, at the little theater. Always work with them when they're looking to do something. Right now we're raising money to do a documentary about the history of the Garth Fagan Dance Company, and that's designed to be a national show. And we're becoming, I think, a little more sensitive. Maybe we could have been hit like most people with a 2x4 to wake up sooner. But we took part in the 21-day challenge, and we also have a diversity and equity and inclusion council with our board and our staff and volunteers. So we are looking at are we serving the whole community? But there are some nights when I always say we don't like the concept of we're going to do it's Black History Month, so find a couple of shows. We feel that you do this all year round. You don't typecast people. It's not Hispanic Month. It's not Black History Month. This should be more of what we do all the time. So we're moving more in that direction, and I think we're becoming a more diverse organization. Particularly our leadership, our board is diverse. And we're keeping it in mind now. It's become top of mind.
Again, I just, the modesty is coming out. I know your organization well enough that a member of your C-suite is African American. You have a reporter from the radio side. I know if someone is suggesting that city newspapers staff can be augmented with greater diversity.
Absolutely. When we took over city, that was one of the reasons I was a little hesitant. I knew that it needed to become a more diverse publication, and David's committed to it too. The only thing holding it back is we're not hiring a lot of people right now. But as we have openings, I think you'll start to see more of a difference.
Great. I'm going to jump ahead and do our PSAs. So I want to, if Adrian is out there, Adrian Elam, let me give you a brief introduction. You may, if you need a little more than a minute, you should feel free, all three of you. But Adrian is someone who's a very talented artist. In fact, one of his video works is in the Warhol exhibit. He's also considered one of the leaders of Free the People Rock, an organizer, and he's also the founder of Black Pride. So I gave you a little time. Adrian, are you out there?
Hello. If Adrian's here. Yeah, there we go.
natural to have a little pause. All right. This is Zoom.
Yes, I always forget to unmute my mic. It's always on
Oh,
mute.
you are, so you were halfway in it. All right, cool.
But yes, hi, my name is Adrian Elam. My pronouns are actually they and them. I am a community organizer, artist, activist, all of these things. I'm a filmmaker. So one of the things I also do is I am the chair and the founder of Rochester Black Pride, which is an LGBT organization the primary focus is the Black LGBTQIA queer and trans community here in Rochester. We've been around for about 5 years, give or take. Officially about 5 years, unofficially about 6. We started out as like a festival to really kind of carve out space for our community and really trying to highlight the arts, the culture of our vibrant community here in Rochester. As you know, I'm gonna keep it plain. Rochester's racist. We know this. There are 2 cities, white one, black one. It goes all across the board, up and down, all around. LGBT community is no different. And so we really wanted to carve out a space to really focus on our community. Now with the impact of COVID-19 and quarantine and all of these things, when we think about who is most impacted by this pandemic and the impact and the effects of it, it's usually our community. So we're facing several pandemics at one time, right? So we already have the HIV and AIDS epidemic. So, recent studies have said 1 out of every 2 Black gay men will become HIV positive in their lifetime. So that's one pandemic we're facing. There's also the gruesome murders of Black trans women that have been going on for decades at this point. But in recent memory, there are about, I think, 30 at this point for 2020, and which is kind of crazy considering everyone's supposed to be inside, right? And no one's really doing much about it outside of our community. And then now we have this COVID-19 pandemic, which has only really kind of highlighted certain things that have been going on. So youth homelessness, I think when this pandemic started, we had about 5 kids that we needed to find housing for almost immediately. So people are still getting kicked out of their homes. People are still being violently attacked. And we also have, the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, which has highlighted, again, police brutality against our communities. So with all of that being said, one of the things that I know we decided to do was to start looking for a building, some property, some land. This is what we are currently looking for. I know myself, I think for the past, I've been asking for a building for like the last 2 years, but now it's more evident, it is more urgent now more than ever. We need to find places, particularly what the building is supposed to be for, one, a cultural and art center for our community, because one, we just need one. There's a history and a rich culture, and I'm hearing Norm talk about all the things that WXXI is doing, and we've worked with City Newspaper and all these different things over the years, and I'm thinking about who is chronicling the history of our community outside of us, and we need a place to house these things and to hold these things, especially with currently the state of the Out Alliance right now. The second function of this building is housing, both temporary, emergency, and more permanent, long-standing housing for our communities. And especially with Rochester, it has a beautiful landscape, all of these different things. There are a crap ton of vacant buildings. There are a ton of properties that are just not being used, that are not being utilized. And there is no reason why we still have homelessness as a crisis right now when there is plenty of space everywhere. So we are looking for a building. I'm looking for it in the sense of someone donating us a building or selling it to us for $1. I've seen this happen all across the board. Center for Youth just got a building. They just got the Y not a couple months ago. And I said, wow, that's great. So we should be getting one too soon then. And then we're fundraising currently to raise money to retrofit the building, things like that. So yeah, that's
Thank you, Adrian. So on NPR this morning, they highlighted that the suicide rate in the African-American community, particularly the adolescent, the only demographic that's increased over the last 20 plus year. And, I think that should be revelatory to other people who aren't exposed to it. So you are doing an amazing God's work, I would have to say. So thank you for making yourself available. And people maybe in the chat could figure out how to get a hold of you. Certainly, if you know how to get a hold of me, I know how to get a hold of Adrian. So, RocGrowth is also about entrepreneurship. There's a budding entrepreneur. Her name is Melissa Eula Douglas, and she has a business named My Retreat. And Melissa, let's find you somewhere on the panel here.
Hi, Richard. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm Melissa.
By the way, Melissa, Norm, when you start hiring again, you need a radio voice. Melissa, all right? Good.
Here's my audition, Norm. I'm Melissa, founder and CEO of My Retreat, where mindfulness and gratitude meet. I help professionals slow down, schedule self-care, and achieve wellness. I'm on a mission to reach 1 million women and 500 businesses with self-care practices because I believe that self-care is a necessity. And I know with chocolate mindfulness, it is luxurious. I'll be launching the Chocolate Mindfulness app in 2021 with the support of a grant that I received last month from American Express. I am the Rochesterian, born and raised, who is being featured by American Express for their 100 for 100 Founders program. And what that means is that I am getting lift for my business, and I want to lift up CEOs locally here in Rochester along with me. So my ask today is for recommendations or volunteers as CEOs of organizations to be on my Chocolate Mindfulness podcast. We'll begin by eating chocolate mindfully and continue on with discussing wellness in the workplace and how we can support our employees with self-care practices, because we all need wellness in our lives and in the workplace. So I will drop my email in the chat, and I look forward to hosting you as a guest on my podcast.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Oh, God, I love that one. All right. Thank you, Melissa. So my partner in this endeavor here, RocGrowth, Chris, you're on.
Thanks, Richard. I've been invited today to talk a little bit about a program that both Richard and I have participated in over the course of, let's say, the last 18 months or so. It's called Exploring Racism, or the Exploring Racism group. I was first introduced to it by Tom Mitchell, who presented, I don't know if any of you were at one of our live events, thinking back to a past time, but Tom stood up on the bar or near the bar at Pop Rock and talked about this program that was designed to begin to have dialogue about exploring racism in our community and beyond. And one of the things that I've really embraced and realized and recognized in my own life throughout this process, it was a 12-month commitment, once a month for an hour and a half. The commitment is definitely not a huge one, but it completely transformed the way that I approach my life, period. And the power of this group has been, it's an introduction to learning how to become an anti-racist and really exploring the preconceived prejudices that we as white people hold within us, that's been built up over time. And I really looked at it about halfway through as the same sort of process that I personally have gone through in the past with personal development work and addressing the choice to be to make a change in your life. And so Tom has asked me, he couldn't be here today, but he asked me to represent the group and let this audience know that there are 3 cohorts that are full and starting in January, and that there are 4 more spots available to complete a 4th cohort. So if you would like to, I guess I would say, if you're on the edge of sort of understanding and wanting to make a change in your life to address some of these systemic issues, all of these systemic issues as they exist within you personally, if you're ready for that, this is a great place to start. It's an ongoing life's work, and it is a commitment, and it is something that I highly recommend. So I also see Fred Dewey mentioned, he's also part of the program, or was part of the program. And the cohort that I was a part of, we actually decided to continue the program even outside of the program, because we truly believe that coming up with a plan and taking action and holding each other accountable as white men in this community is a critical component of making change happen. So I appreciate everyone being here today. I appreciate the other public service announcements. Let's support one another, and be good to each other. Be positive to each other. I'll put Tom's email in the chat, and if you'd like to be part of that next cohort, please feel free to email him and he can send you more details. I'm not a representative of the group, I'm a participant, so I'm happy to represent and share my story a little bit. The other thing, Richard, that I would say, if we could right now, for anyone who's available on the Hollywood Squares and can show their video, if you could turn your video on. Tom, are you, or Zara, one of you can take a screen capture. We like to prove that there were actually people here. No, I'm just kidding. It's great to see all the faces. So I would say I will act as the person holding space. If you throw up a peace sign or wave or something like that, Tom, if you could turn your audio on and tell us when you're done so this painfully awkward moment can end as soon as possible, that would be fantastic, right?
Zara is going to do this also, Zara, if you can, but I will do it. We have multiple screens, so it'll be a couple seconds as we get both all screens there.
Okay, so before you start, give everybody a chance to turn their camera on real quick if you're comfortable with it. Throw up a peace sign and smile or wave or something. Otherwise, you're like, doing something weird and it looks awkward on. So, okay. Go ahead.
I don't know how. You're going to have to.
Tom, it's on you, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got the first screen.
We gotta say something.
I missed one screen, so I gotta go back and do the first screen again, sorry.
So may I talk for a moment, Tom? I'm not distracting. So what we've done,
we are all done.
Okay, we're done. Phew.
We're recording this and we will post it typically within 24 hours, maybe even tonight. I know there are people that wanted to participate, but they had scheduling conflicts and could not. We have 6 years. Again, this is our 6-month anniversary. Our first RocGrowth Candids occurred in a snowstorm in December of 2014. We have a vast archive, and all of our previous events, they were pre-Zoom. Thank you, sticker. I see a sticker. They have a long shelf life and relevancy. So as we're wrapping up, Norm, you're a community, you're all about community. And is there—
It took you a little while to say community what, so it's getting a little nervous there.
Community, and is there
I'm in the middle of a
I hear
right now.
I hear some background.
Can you call me back?
Is there
Call me in about an hour.
someone in spot, could please people go on mute? All right. So is there a way we can help you? I mean, obviously we've provided the donation link, but how would you view us as our community being able to help WXXI sustain itself and do great things in the future?
I would appreciate it if you'd help me sometimes with my lobbying efforts. Like when you're talking to Joe Morelli, you're talking to any of the new legislators, and there's plenty of them. I've never seen this many changes in the 25 years that I've been here. And just remind them that we're an educational institution, and that we're not looking to do this to make money. We're looking to do it to make this a better community. And right now, we're taking on our own things like Ready to Learn and Learn at Home courses. Our sister station in New York City, which is the flagship station for PBS, just made available 130 hours of Learn at Home programming for children. And we picked it up, and you'll start seeing it in January on our air too. So I just like to remind people that sometimes they think you're like Channel 10 or Channel 8. We're very different. And on the radio side, I don't think there's anyone doing anything close to the local news that we're doing on WXXI radio. In fact, we've done, since the beginning of the year, over 1,500 local stories about the impact of the coronavirus on our community. 1,500, which is pretty incredible. And that's in addition to the NPR programming and the PBS programming and other things that we're getting independently. So we're doing everything we can to try to keep people informed. And, it's just important that we get the word out. We're not good at blowing our own horn, so thank you for helping.
Yeah, well,
Remember-
I feel guilty creating a scheduling conflict with Evan Dawson, but you can listen to his show on podcast. And I'll tell you the range of voices and opinions that call in expresses the diversity we were talking about earlier on his show.
Yeah, most people don't realize that every public radio station doesn't do 2 hours of local talk, but the New York City station does, and we do. And there might be some in Albany, but not so much in Buffalo or in Syracuse or in Binghamton. All around the state, we're pretty unique in how much time we devote to the community and creating a place where people can express themselves. And we try to do it in a way that respects people. We're not looking to be another one of those shows that's shouting and carrying on. And Evan is a gem. So, we love him.
And just a note, you can be a sustaining member for as little as $5 a month. And as a sustaining member, you also get the I think it's called WXXI Passport, which allows you to do streaming of different shows on demand. It's a wonderful service. We recently just upped our sustainer because it's really been hard times, and we appreciate what WXXI is doing, as everybody else in Rochester should also.
Well, thanks. That's great. You're absolutely right. For a very low membership level, you do get access to PBS and WXXI Passport. And, you can go back. It's thousands of hours of programming that we're making available to people. And people really seem to appreciate it.
Cool. Well, I feel this tremendous amount of consonance between RocGrowth and XXI. Obviously, you're much larger. You've been around longer, but I think we're allies in helping make Rochester be what it can and should be.
I can see your piano keys behind you. And as you know, I had Sean Dunwoody on recently on Norman Company. And it was probably the most fun I've ever had interviewing someone. And also, I learned a hell of a lot that I should have known about Rochester and about what's going on with the murals and, and just, and how Sean's in the middle of so many of these projects or has mentored people. So he's a hero. I'm sure you've had him on.
Yep.
If you haven't, you should.
Yeah, we've interviewed him several years ago. And
yeah, I just interviewed John Ledestri. That'll be on in February. My first Zoom interview. So, cool. But I think it came out okay.
So as people are dropping off, I want to let them know that we've started a bunch of listening sessions, and I want to thank, Amanda Chestnut and the others who participated in the last one. We're contemplating continuing them. We have a core group, a committee that has really been able to sustain us and re-engineer throughout COVID. I see Josh Krager, Tom Myers is our Swiss Army knife. We have Zara Ali, who's here. Andrew Brady, I'm not sure, I don't see him on the screen, but we're trying to get more voices present. And this is about the community. If anyone is interested in getting more engaged in whatever way, we'll come up with ideas. And perhaps you have ideas, and that's the direction we may end up pursuing. So please reach out, info@rockgrowth.com. Spread the word socially. That's a good virus. We're on all the different channels. And, just remain healthy. We're going to see in 2021. I know it's going to be, things are looking better. And I want to express my gratitude to Norm for participating in this and for all the great work you do in the community. So happy holidays. Thank you.
Yeah, happy holidays to everybody. Thanks for having me. And if you want to get in touch, I have a very easy email, norms, NORMS, @WXXI.org.
Thank you, everyone.
This video will be up within the next couple days.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.